okay? So clearly what we need are more of those. And if you look at the work I just did on Obama's future spending, this is only going to get worse, okay? And if you just looked at welfare alone, if you look at the receipt of welfare by low and moderate skill immigrants, they will cost the taxpayer over $1.5 trillion over the next decade. If we look at amnesty, the best way to explain amnesty is effectively spreading the wealth to illegal immigrants, okay? We say, oh, earned citizenship, they have to pay. The simplest thing to understand is, I explained in the larger forum, when you grant amnesty, you're granting access to Social Security and Medicare. Now in Washington, we have an entire organized system of lying, okay? And one of the key components of the organized system of lying is the Congressional Budget Office, okay? The Congressional Budget Office tells you how much amnesty is going to cost. But the thing is, it's set up to deliberately deceive people, because the Congressional Budget Office can only look at a specific type of federal spending, and they can only look 10 years out. So in all of these amnesty bills, guess when the illegal immigrants become eligible for government benefits? Who could guess what year that would be? Could it possibly be year 11? Yes, it could. Welcome to Washington. Okay? But I sat down 2 years ago with the CBO guys and I said, you know, the one thing we haven't talked about in these costing is that when you make these illegals eligible, they all go into Social Security and Medicare. Have you guys thought about what that would cost? And they said, no, that's beyond 10 years, you know? Why would we want to do that? We like our jobs. And so, but the reality is, wow, you're taking 10 million people, 60% of high school dropouts, and you're making them in about 25 years eligible for Social Security and Medicare. Unbelievable cost, around $2.5 trillion alone, just there. And as soon as you think about it, oh my God, what could that possibly cost? You understand, that's enormously expensive, which is why Washington would never, ever talk about it or tell you about it. The other thing about this, we talk about how Milton Friedman said that you can't have open borders with a welfare state. And the reason for that is that when you have open borders and when you allow people to come here legally in vast numbers, or to come here illegally and then get amnesty, what you're actually doing is granting them access to the US ballot box. So the thing I like to say to the open borders people at the Wall Street Journal is I said, look, suppose you had a system where anyone in the world, open borders, can fly to the United States, can land at LaGuardia or can land at JFK, and the minute they get off the plane, they can start voting in American elections. What would they vote for? Would they vote to confiscate the entire wealth of the United States? Of course they would. It'd be gone. But somehow it's like the frog in the kettle where you raise the heat slowly. Somehow anybody can understand that, wow, if you let them vote the minute they get off the plane, that sounds like a recipe to confiscate all the wealth in the United States in about 3 months, right? But boy, if we let them come in and they're here for 5 years, then the effects are much, much different. No, they're exactly the same, okay? And this doesn't mean anything that is evil about the immigrant. They're just acting out their natural instincts, their natural interest, and they would be coming into a system that says, vote for me and I'll give you free stuff, which is what we do as a country. Vote for me and I will give you free stuff. And so to the extent that you have low-skill immigrants coming into the United States, they have an overwhelming propensity to vote for what? Reduce capital gains tax? Yeah, oh yeah. Star Wars, you know, oh yeah. No, they vote for free stuff, okay? And the reality is that we spend about $1 trillion a year giving away free medical care, free housing, free cash, free food to poor people in the United States. We have a very, very expensive system designed to support, at huge cost to the taxpayer, low-income, disadvantaged Americans. And when you try to apply that or begin to apply that to unlimited inflows of people from the third world, it will very quickly bankrupt the United States. But it will also destroy the political process in the same way, because effectively then the electoral system is going to be about how fast can we confiscate the wealth of the United States. And believe me, there are people in the White House that want to confiscate that wealth as rapidly as they can. Open borders means open ballots, which means effectively that the U.S. democracy becomes a global open primary, okay? And once you understand that, it's clear that the only people that would be supporting this are people that either don't understand, like libertarians, to whom they can only see the narrowest possible economic consequences of what they're doing, or people that feel that their way to political power is in fact to set in motion this massive transfer of wealth on which they're going to ride to power by supporting it. What should we do? The simplest thing that we should do, and again, the John Fund in the session we just in said, well, there's no simple answers. In fact, there are simple answers. We can enforce the law, okay? Now, 20 years ago, we said we're going to give a one-time amnesty, never do it again, and in exchange for that one-time amnesty, we're going to make it illegal to employ illegal immigrants, okay? But that was the deal. And we gave the amnesty, and they lied. They never enforced that part of the law. They scoff at it. They mock it, okay? And they lie about it. Oh, we can't do that. In fact, the reality was it was too easy to do that. It was too easy 20 years ago to find the illegals. You'd go into a meatpacking plant, say, oh, my goodness, illegals, how did they get here? And the guy who owned the meatpacking plant would call up his senator and say, hey, they just shut my plant down. And the senator would say, stop doing that. Don't enforce the law. And we've been doing that for 20 years, okay? If you enforce the law, you can do it very simply. If you require all employers to use a system it's now available called E-Verify, they can check with 99.98% accuracy whether or not the name and Social Security and so forth provided by the job applicant is in fact lawful and true. And with very modest modifications, they can also basically check and prevent identity theft fraud as well. Now, we believe, we don't really know, but probably half of the illegal employment in the U.S. occurs on the books. So that's 4 to 5 million illegal immigrants who work, who, if there was an E-Verify provision, would in fact be stopped at the front door. So the simplest thing to say, if you had a law that said today that all businesses must use E-Verify, starting perhaps with first hires or new hires, and then working back, that it would in fact probably open up 4 to 5 million jobs for Americans, 10 million of whom are unemployed. It would be the strongest pro-employment policy that you could possibly come up with, because I believe the jobs belong to American citizens, not to people who broke the law to come here illegally. And by removing the incentive of taking jobs unlawfully, I believe the bulk of illegal immigrants would begin to go home. The final thing I would end with is it's very important never to fall into this trap of things like our economy needs X number of workers, okay? That is not fixed, okay? The number of workers that the economy demands is contingent on what? It's contingent on the anticipated supply of labor. And I've had this conversation with the people who do this projection at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, so the reality is that they're always saying to us, oh, well, we need X number of guest workers. As you increase the supply of workers coming in from abroad, you also automatically increase the demand, because employers are saying, oh, we have lots of workers here, and there's no stopping point to that process.